This is section 7 on the discussion of fourth generation photodynamic therapy. We mentioned bone cancer toward the end of the last session, and I showed you how the infrared camera can show where sensitizer is. This is the same patient. Before treatment, she had bone cancer in her manubrium, and they had seen that on the scans. And as usual, they said, well, there's nothing we can do about it. We can't surgically remove your breastbone, and chemotherapy isn't going to help, and neither is radiation. So, it's just a matter of time before you die. What we did was we put the sensitizer in. That's why that's glowing where the cancer is. And then we used the laser. And a few days later, we did another scan, and we find that, gee, there's no more sensitizer there. Well, we know that as long as there's cancer in the body and there's sensitizer circulating in the body, which there is, it's going to wind up in the cancer. And if it's near the surface of the skin, we can see it with the camera. So she had scans later on. She had bone scans and CT scans and MRIs, and they all said, well, no, you don't have bone cancer anymore. It was originally in her back and in her manubrium and in several other places. Another example of bone cancer is, this is from a different type of cancer. And as you can see in the left photo here, something's going on in the ankle bone. A lot of sensitizer accumulated there. We treat it with a laser like we did with the bone cancer and the lymphatic cancer. And when we scan later, nothing there. This patient also had about 20 lumps in the skull. You could actually feel these lumps, and then when you put the infrared camera on it, they glowed brightly, showing that there was cancer there. So we treated all of those, and again, this patient had scans many times that said, no, sorry, there's nothing there anymore. We don't know where it went, but it's gone now. So what else can you do with this? How deep can you go? You'd be amazed. After reading the internet and being told that you can only go a couple of millimeters or at most a centimeter in the body, let me show you what we can actually do with the fourth generation sensitizer. This is a person who had lung cancer. His brain scan came back with what the oncologist called innumerable tumors in the brain. It looked like somebody spilled cottage cheese in his brain. I spent an hour trying to count all of the tumors by going through the MRI a slice at a time. I got up to, I think it was 210 before I got bored and quit, and that's before I got to the back of the brain where they were the thickest. This patient arrived unable to speak and needed help when he was walking because he tipped over to one side, because there was a tumor down in the center of the brain right here that was affecting all of his coordination and his speech abilities. We treated him with PDT. Basically, we had to shave his head so we could get the light in. So yeah, he was bald like a chemo patient. The only difference is his hair is going to be growing back immediately after we stop shaving it, as opposed to taking months to come back. And he's not throwing up. This is a scan that was taken a couple of months later. But what was more interesting was the immediate response. When he first arrived, I asked him to say, Peter Piper, pictate pecca, pickled peppers. And all he could get out was P, 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 P. And he couldn't walk without assistance. 5 days after we initiated treatment, he drove up to the place that I was staying while we treated patients, jumped out of the car, jumped up on the curb, looked at me and said, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Only he didn't make a mistake in it. I did. So, how deep can you go into the chest? Well, this is the same patient. Originally, as you can see here, this whole side of lung was essentially solid cancer. Very small area of lung tissue that was still infiltrated with cancer. A few months after treatment, The lung didn't completely restore itself because it had been so damaged, but the oncologist said there was no cancer showing up in the scan. So, yeah, how much of this was due to direct activation and the immune system? It's hard to say. All we know is you definitely need both, and our protocol delivers both. In the next section, we'll discuss autoimmune disorders.